Remember last time when I made a giant iPhone to shove lint into? That was fun. Let's go back and I'll show you where this big idea started. There I was, walking around looking to find the perfect giant iPhone. And there it was, a gloriously huge iPhone, more fitting that this was the mini version, with a charge port big enough to climb in. Unfortunately, that was way too big to fit on my printer, so I threw a normal size model into Fusion 360 and cut it into pieces. I then had to split those into thirds so it would actually fit at my desired scale. This was super fun seeing an iPhone broken down in a much different way than I'm used to on this channel. I knew I wanted the charging port to have as much detail as possible. From there it was imported into PrusaSlicer, and because I wanted this to be multiple colors, I had to print one piece at a time. Scaled up 750%, each of the primary frame pieces took roughly 17 hours to print, then an additional 8 hours for the screen, bezels, and antennas. I had debated printing the entire phone, but already staring down a nearly 80-hour print time had me intimidated enough. I stole my wife's hairspray to prime the print bed. This would make removal a bit harder, but I couldn't afford any warping for these big pieces to fit together. Finally, I woke up from my 17-hour nap. This piece was finished printing and cooling. It was also firmly attached to the glass bed. No putty knife was going to save me here, so I chose violence. Removing the retainer clips from the heat plate, I took the bed off and lined it up very carefully with my countertop. The print was either coming off, or I was buying a new piece of glass. Success. Now I began the painstaking process of removing supports. Experienced 3D printing people will tell you this is an easy process, and that's probably because they got their settings right for detachable supports, but I am not very experienced, so these supports are firmly attached to the main print at several spots. Thankfully, they were no match for the blue-handled snippers. Once I finished this, and did it 2 more times, I printed out the speaker hole plugs, and immediately found that none of them would fit. Well, that was fun. Back to the slicer, I scaled the plugs to 740% instead, so they should fit much easier. Much better, though they are incredibly tight, and the sound of PLA scraping PLA is not far from nails on a chalkboard. My cats were not a fan of this part. With the bezel and screen printed, I was ready to start assembling. At least, I thought I was ready to start assembling. I encountered a problem. I had not been paying attention to which side needed to be white, and ended up printing the screen piece backwards. Because the whole model was cut into 3 unequal pieces, this one ended up being too long to actually fit properly. Using my skills and laziness, I found a simple solution. Just print both sides of it white, with black in the middle. Now you might say, hey Chris, why not print the whole thing white? Well, it's because I'm down to the last few meters of white filament, and being the lazy man I claim to be, I don't want to wait for more to ship. Once my mistakes were corrected, I began assembly. I probably could have designed this to work with screws or magnets, but those weren't going to arrive for a few more days and I already printed the pieces. So super glue was my weapon of choice. Things were coming together great. I was super happy with the snug fit of all the parts, and the glue dried very quickly, keeping the parts bonded together well. I wanted the center screen to be something special, so I imported my channel's logo into Fusion 360 and extruded it into the screen. From there, I planned a strategic filament change so the logo would have a black background showing through the white display. It came out beautifully. It even got some of the smaller cracked screen details. Finally, everything was coming together. The pieces fit perfectly and the glue was drying quickly. The only thing left to do were to raid my dryer for lint and transport this block of an iPhone to work for final assembly. The 2 pentallobes smoothly fit, no screwing required, thankfully, because I didn't print a giant screwdriver. The pins were adhered inside of the charging port. If I just had a smooth shell to pry lint out of, it wouldn't be as much of a challenge, and that port fits perfectly inside. The rest is history. If for some reason you'd like to print your own tap-to-digital giant iPhone butt, you can find it along with the other big tech I've made over on Printables. There's a link in the description. And if you've made it this far, thanks a ton for watching. Be sure to subscribe for more big tech, and come see more of the weird stuff that I do over on Instagram and TikTok. I'll see you in the next one.